The night the doors closed, it felt less like a game show and more like a reckoning. 30 celebrities stood under blinding white lights, the kind that erase shadows and leave nowhere to hide, while a single number glowed above them like a dare, $1 million. Cameras hummed. A countdown ticked softly in the background. And somewhere between the applause and the silence that followed, everyone realized this wasn't about money anymore. It was about who they really were when everything familiar was stripped away. Among them stood Evan Cole, a name most people recognized but few truly knew. To the world, he was the charming actor with a million-watt smile, the one who always played the hero who arrived just in time. Off camera, he was tired. Not the kind of tired sleep fixes, but the deeper kind, the exhaustion of keeping a life together while pretending it was effortless. His career had plateaued, his marriage had quietly fallen apart, and his younger sister's medical bills had been stacking up like unopened letters he was afraid to read. When the invitation came, 30 celebrities, $1 million, no scripts, he said yes before fear could talk him out of it. The arena was built like a maze of glass and steel, challenges hidden behind walls that slid open without warning. The rules were simple and merciless, every challenge eliminated someone. No teams lasted forever. No alliances were safe. Some tests were physical, others psychological, and a few felt uncomfortably personal, like they were designed by someone who knew exactly where people were weakest. The money waited at the end, untouched and silent, watching them fracture. At first, Evan played the role everyone expected. He laughed easily, shook hands, cracked jokes when nerves ran high. He won the first challenge, a balance test over a suspended platform, by instinct, moving with a calm he didn't feel. Applause washed over him, and for a moment, he believed he could glide through this the way he always had. But the second challenge shattered that illusion. They were placed in individual rooms, each with a single chair and a screen. The task was to watch a short film compiled from their own lives, interviews, paparazzi footage, private moments they didn't remember consenting to share. Then they had to answer one question honestly. Lie, and they'd be eliminated. Evan watched his highlight reel turn into a lowlight reel, tabloid headlines, a clip of him dodging a reporter's question about his divorce, a shaky phone video of his sister laughing in a hospital bed. The question appeared, "Who are you doing this for?" His throat tightened. He could have said his fans. His career. The challenge. Instead, he whispered the truth. My sister. And because I don't know how to stop running otherwise. The screen went black. The door opened. He stayed. As the days passed, the group thinned. Muscles failed. Confidence cracked. One by one, famous faces vanished through exit doors without speeches or second chances. Evan started noticing the quiet moments, the singer who cried alone after losing her voice in a stamina challenge, the retired athlete who shook uncontrollably when a siren sounded because it reminded him of an accident he never talked about. Fame didn't protect anyone here. If anything, it made the fall louder. Halfway through, a challenge arrived that changed everything. They were paired up and given a simple instruction: one person would compete, the other would watch. The catch was cruel: if the competitor failed, both would be eliminated. Evan was paired with Maya Reyes, a comedian known for her fearless humor and unapologetic honesty. She joked about trusting a man who made a living pretending to be brave, but her eyes betrayed real fear. The challenge was endurance-based, a timed hold over freezing water. Evan volunteered to compete. As the seconds dragged on, his muscles screamed and his breath came out in ragged bursts. He could hear Maya shouting encouragement, her voice cracking when she thought no one would notice. When his grip finally slipped, he was sure it was over. Instead, the timer froze 1 second before 0. They collapsed on the floor, laughing and crying at the same time. For the first time since arriving, Evan felt something warm and unfamiliar: connection without performance. Not everyone was playing for connection. As the numbers dropped, alliances hardened into weapons. Rumors spread. Trust dissolved. A whispered lie nearly cost Evan his place when another contestant accused him of sabotaging equipment. He wanted to lash out, to defend himself with the sharpness he'd learned in interviews. Instead, he stayed quiet and let the evidence speak. It did. The accuser was eliminated, and Evan was left with the bitter realization that surviving didn't always feel like winning. The final stretch was brutal. Sleep was rationed. Challenges came back to back. In one, they had to choose between advancing themselves or granting immunity to someone else. Evan hesitated, the button cooled beneath his fingers. He thought of his sister, of the money that could change everything. Then he looked at Maya, exhausted, hands trembling. He pressed the immunity button. The crowd gasped. The host raised an eyebrow. Evan advanced anyway, but the choice cost him allies and painted a target on his back. By the time only 3 remained, Evan's body was a roadmap of bruises, and his confidence was hanging by a thread. The final challenge was announced with unsettling calm. They would each be given a chance to claim the $1 million early, but doing so would eliminate the others instantly. Or they could compete in a final trial that tested everything they'd learned, with no guarantee of winning. One contestant took the early claim without hesitation and disappeared behind a door that sealed like a vault. 2 remained, Evan and Maya. They stood facing each other in a vast, empty room. No jokes now. No cameras in their faces, just the hum of lights and the weight of the choice. Evan felt the old instinct rise, the one that said take the win, secure the future, walk away. Then he remembered the question from the screen. Who are you doing this for? He realized the answer had changed. They chose the trial. It was a puzzle of memory and trust, designed so neither could finish alone. They had to share information, rely on each other's strengths, and keep going when failure meant nothing. Time bled away. Hands shook. Voices went hoarse. At one point, Evan froze, panic-locking his thoughts in place. Maya took his hands and grounded him with a quiet, steady presence that needed no punchline. Piece by piece, they built the solution. When the final mechanism clicked into place, the room exhaled. They had done it. There was one last twist, of course. The $1 million would go to one person, chosen by a final vote, from the eliminated contestants watching behind the scenes. Evan stood still as names were read, heart pounding louder than the applause ever had. When the host finally said his name, the sound seemed to come from underwater. Evan didn't smile right away. He looked for Maya. She was clapping, eyes shining, pride unforced. The check felt heavier than it should have as he held it. In his final moment on camera, Evan didn't talk about victory. He talked about fear, and how it shrinks when you stop running. He talked about choosing people over safety, truth over image. And when the lights dimmed and the arena emptied, he called his sister first, his voice breaking as he told her she didn't have to worry anymore. Months later, the headlines would say he'd won $1 million. But those who watched closely knew better. They saw a man arrive armored by fame and leave stripped down to something honest. They saw 30 celebrities fight, yes, but they also saw something rarer. Growth. Kindness under pressure. And the quiet power of choosing who you want to be when the doors finally close and the money is just a number.